Hello, Earth Science. So today's lecture is on global warming. Um, this is a little bit of a personal topic for me. I think it is for everyone in some small way at least, because global warming, we're talking about how the Earth is changing on a global scale. The place that we live, the thing that provides us life is changing, which can be kind of a scary thought. And then on top of that, you have all of these political biases that people put on global warming. Um, is global warming actually happening? Is it a big deal? Should we stop it? What are you doing to stop it? Those are the questions you hear about in all the news all the time. Um, so if you're watching this lecture, it might be a good idea to go ahead and do the readings for today. Some of the graphs I'm going to show you are going to make a little bit more sense if you know a little bit about global warming already. So if you need to take the chance to pause the video, then come back after you've done those readings that I've posted on today's agenda, you might do that. But global warming, I asked you in today's, I started class today, I asked you guys that, is global warming real? And then just tell me what you know about global warming. So there's a certain point in my life where I didn't believe that global warming was real. I believe that there's people making up numbers that no, the Earth's temperature isn't getting warmer. But I'm here to tell you that yes, global warming is real. It's really easy to measure. All you do is take temperatures all around the world and then compare those temperatures to the same spots again the next year. And after you do that for enough years in a row, you start to see a trend to develop where yes, the Earth is actually getting warmer. So we can say definitively the Earth is getting warmer, and we can see consequences of the Earth getting warmer. For example, polar ice caps are melting. The ocean sea level is rising. And then there's also some effects that we're not too sure what it's connected to. Like, for example, the migration patterns of animals are changing because animals depend on a certain climate to live. Increased in some really crazy weather patterns. 2019 was a big hurricane year, lots of big damaging hurricanes. So we can see the impact of global warming. The thing that we're going to talk about most of today is the cause of global warming. So I just want to have in your mind that cause and effect, two different things. So we can really see the effects of global warming really easily. The effects of global warming are things like the things I mentioned, how animal migration patterns are changing. The temperature is warmer, and we had these storms and weather patterns a lot more severe. Rising sea levels, those are all effects of global warming. Because the world is getting warmer, here are some consequences. But what causes global warming? What makes global warming happen in the first place? So if you ever look into Earth's history, and scientists have lots of ways of knowing what Earth's past temperatures are. We can record temperatures, but even before thermometers were invented, the Earth kind of had a way of I'm sorry, I hope it's not too windy right now. I'm talking outside. The Earth had a way of has lots of ways of telling us what the temperature probably was like 100 years ago or even 1,000 years ago. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because the Earth has gone through lots of changes, gone through ice ages and gone through warm periods. So what is causing this warm period right now is a big question. When you look at today's readings from CK12, almost immediately CK12 will tell you that, oh, it's because of mankind. And actually, let me go ahead and show you that real quick here. All right. So let me just share with you the reading that you guys are going to be looking at today. So hopefully you can see this. If you're on your phone, it might be a little difficult to see. But in like this fourth paragraph, it says, recent global warming is mainly due to human actions. So CK12 is very quick to attribute humankind as the cause for global warming, or as the main cause. Why do they say that? Well, let's take a look at exactly why they're saying that. So first of all, let me just show you a few graphs. So this is the globe. Here's North America, South America, Africa, Europe. If you're in my class, you're probably living in North America. what's with the colored here? Well, at the bottom you see there's a key. It says temperature anomaly. If you don't know what the word anomaly means, anomaly just means something unusual. So you can also look at that as temperature unusual. So anything that is not white, there's something that is unusual about the temperature, probably compared to the year before, maybe the past 10 years. This doesn't really say specifically on this graph. But if you look at the South Pole, there's a little bit of blue, and there's oceans are mostly white. But overall, there's a lot of red on this map, especially if you get to the North Pole here and some of Europe and Russia and China, or excuse me, Asia. And so what this map is telling us is that most of the world has experienced a warm period compared to previous years or previous decades. So that's global warming. That's what the definition of global warming is. Global warming is a increase in the average temperature around the world. That's what global warming is. So let's look at it a little more concretely here. So again, here's temperature anomaly on the y-axis of this graph. That just means that there's something unusual about the temperature. On the bottom of this graph, this is time. So it goes from 1880 to 2020. And this graph was actually made around 2017, so it doesn't quite reach to 2020. No matter. You can see that the temperature anomaly was below zero, which means it was colder than normal around 1880, 1900, all the way until about 1940. And then we got the spike in 1940, went back down for a little bit, and then there was just a very steady increase, and then that steady increase got faster and faster and faster until the present day. So right now there's a temperature anomaly of 0.8 degrees Celsius, which is like a couple degrees Fahrenheit. I know, so a couple degrees Fahrenheit does not sound like a very much temperature increase, but remember, this is a global average. So when you average all the temperatures from all around the world, a degree Fahrenheit up or down is a big deal. If we were 2 degrees Fahrenheit below the normal, we'd have our own little mini ice age right now. So it's getting significantly warmer, and so why does CK12 why are they so quick to attribute this to mankind? Well, they get their data from other scientists that say that, okay, this temperature increase really started around 1960. And around 1960, the global economy had a big boom. 1950s and 60s is kind of the post-World War II era, where a lot of industrialization kind of spiked. Jobs went up, transportation went up, and once transportation goes up, you have people making cars, you have people driving those cars, you have people flying planes, and as you know today, travel is really a big deal right now. Not at this very second because of the coronavirus, but that's another story. And so all of those activities that mankind has releases something called carbon dioxide, which brings me to my next graph. So this next graph is very similar in that the bottom axis here is the year. Instead of starting from 1880, we're starting from 1960 down here. So this graph goes from 1960 all the way to, again, about 2020, or I guess a little more like 2017 on this one. And instead of temperature on the y-axis, we have something called CO2 concentration. So if you guys did your readings, you know that carbon dioxide, or CO2, is a greenhouse gas. The more greenhouse gases that are inside the atmosphere, the more of the sun's heat can be trapped. And so the CO2 concentration really just had a nice steady increase all the way from 1960 and to all the way to 2017, and it doesn't seem to be going down anytime soon. So since the economy has spiked and we have so much more industrialization that produces the carbon dioxide, scientists attribute this rise in carbon dioxide to mankind. And if you can't guess by the way I'm talking about now, you can see I'm kind of hesitant to agree with them. So for these chapters today, I really want you guys to put on your critical thinking caps and just kind of, I want you guys to think for yourself. I want you to think about, where are these scientists getting their data? Does it match? Does the carbon dioxide that we observe in the atmosphere, does it match what humans are actually releasing? Because if you're going to ask me personally, I would say that yes, global warming is real, and yes, global warming can be dangerous. to our health and the health of lots of other creatures on the earth. But do we have the full picture? What is the sun's heat doing right now? Is the sun going through a warming period? Is the earth releasing its own carbon dioxide? Because there's lots of processes like volcanoes and earthquakes that can release gases on their own. These are kind of questions I would have for the scientists. So when you go through today's readings and practice, I want you to do two things. First of all, on the practice I assigned to you guys today, just assume that mankind is responsible for all of global warming. If you don't assume that, then you might get a few questions, or a few of those practice questions might be a little bit confusing. So when you read through CK12, you really get a perspective of what certain people and politicians and even scientists think about global warming, how it's caused by mankind, and the only way to reverse it is by watching our gas emissions, which is not a bad thing. We should definitely decrease our gas emissions. But will it stop global warming is another question. So when you look at the data from this chapter, and really the data from any chapter that makes these broad statements like global warming is bad and mankind needs to do something about it, really, be curious. Ask yourself, well, where did that data come from? Can I trust that data? And this is kind of a speech I should have given at the beginning of the term, because, even things like the earth goes around the sun, that's something we talked about at the very first thing this term. Why would you trust me? Why would you trust me when I say the earth goes around the sun? How do we know the sun doesn't go around the earth? Which is why we talked about evidence of this is how we know the earth goes around the sun. So when it comes to global warming, we know that the earth is warming, and lots of people will say that mankind is responsible, but how do we know for sure? It's just something I want you to think about. I'm not trying to say that all those scientists are wrong. They could be right. Anyway, so I don't want to go off into too big of a speech, but I just want to give you guys some context for today's chapters. I hope that helps. Tomorrow we're going to look at we're going to kind of combine this issue of global warming and renewable versus non-renewable resources. We're going to look at the issue on the local level, at the level of St. Louis, and what is St. Louis going to do to change their energy policies for the 21st century. So if you guys have any questions, please post your questions here on YouTube or on Google Classroom, or email or text me, and I hope everyone has a great day.